And now we are up for the last speaker of the day and of the conference, Esther Cañada Mela. You met her yesterday, Esther, and she's going to introduce us the future of the EU-China economic relations. As everybody know, the EU and China, they are the world's second and third largest economies, and they share the responsibility in promoting common interests and at the global level. Since the establishment of the diplomatic relations back in 1975, both countries have committed to create a better climate to facilitate and develop trade and investments between both parties. The EU's new strategy on China, adopted back in 2016, included a trade agenda with a strong focus on improving market access opportunities and negotiations on a comprehensive agreement on investment. But where do we stand now, and where does the consequences of the COVID pandemic lead us? Esther, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laura, and I'm very happy to do this last presentation. We started with a 30,000-foot view from Renzo on the global situation, and yes, I'm going to finish as well with a bit of a bigger picture presentation. And you mentioned, I mean, the topic of this discussion is EU-China economic relations. I have taken the liberty, if you will forgive me, of expanding the topic of the discussion to EU-China relations, because we keep hearing more and more often, especially from European stakeholders, both at the EU and at the member state level, that trade does not take place in a vacuum. So in this context, it is more and more important to look at all aspects of the relationship in order to better understand where the economic and trade part of it is going to go. So I would like to begin by saying that the EU-China relationship is a very complex one with many different players. You're all very much aware of the structure that we have in the EU. We have the European Parliament, which is democratically elected every 5 years. They actually published recently a strategy on China, and they have become more and more visible with regards to taking a firm stance on the EU's relationship with China. We have the Council of the EU, which basically represents the different interests of member states. And we have the European Commission, which is the executive, and it's accompanied by the External Action Service, which is kind of the foreign ministry. And of course, you have the European Council formed by leaders of member states and the central bank. So it's definitely a complex situation with different voices, and a lot of the times the EU receives complaints saying, well, if you want to call the EU, which number do we get? Like who do you call if you want to talk with the EU? So again, it is complex, and sometimes there are diverging interests to take into account. However, we have seen in the past few years a bit of a movement in some senses towards a firmer stance on EU-China relations, and in certain aspects as well, more unity when it comes to member states and European Commission. Again, like it depends on the areas, and I'll talk a bit more about it. I would like to point you out, first of all, to the latest kind of comprehensive document that we have on an EU-China strategy, and that is the joint communication that was published in 2019. This communication is famous for its identification of China as a partner, as a competitor, and as a systemic rival. this has been a tenet, and these three pillars have been basically the basis of the EU's engagement with China in the past few years. I will talk a bit more about the future, but recently we have seen some voices asking for a revisiting of the EU's China strategy. And as I mentioned, the European Parliament published in September its own document providing a perspective on a new EU-China strategy. Now, zooming into the economic relations between the EU and China, traditionally, we have seen a huge amount of trade between the EU and China. It's around 1 billion euros every day. In the past year, we have seen ups and downs, of course, because of the COVID-19. But according to the latest data from between January and August 2021, we did see an increase in terms of trade volume, both from the EU to China and in terms of imports from China to the EU. However, we have also seen the trade imbalance increasing from 120.4 billion euros to 138 euros in August 2021, which is something that is concerning and goes to show that there is a lot of room for development for European businesses in China. In terms of investment flows, the latest data from Rhodium Group goes to show that in terms of average from 2000 to 2020, generally we have seen a higher volume of investment from the EU to China, with an average of 8.3 billion US dollars annually from 2000 to 2020. However, Chinese companies have caught up very quickly, as you can see in this graph. And currently the average is 7.3 billion dollars annual. So what are the key takeaways here? The economic relationship is very fruitful, but it is imbalanced, and China really is punching below its weight when it comes to investment from the EU. And again, there is a lot of room for development for European industry when it comes to trade and investment with China. Now, we have all been discussing the imbalances, of course, with the bilateral relationship, but also the distortions that are created due to China's very specific system. We're talking about market access issues. We're talking about discriminatory treatment of European companies. And we're talking in general about a lack of reciprocity and unfair competition conditions, not only for European companies in China, but also for European companies in Europe. This is why in the past few years, and especially since the rollout of this joint communique in 2019, the EU has been vamping up a different array of measures to address these imbalances caused by, again, China's very specific economic model. So we have seen an FDI screening mechanism being rolled out. We have seen a regulation on a foreign subsidies instrument that has already been published. It's not a draft regulation. It has already been published. We have seen work on an international procurement instrument, which would aim to open up third country markets in terms of procurement based on reciprocity. This work has progressed in the past year, especially from the member state side. And we are seeing some more regulations being developed. Currently, we're seeing a proposal on a sustainable corporate governance, which the speaker before mentioned, as it could potentially include mandatory due diligence across supply chains. We also have an anti-coercion mechanism being developed, which would aim to address coercive actions from third countries, not only China, towards EU operators. And we see as well a rethinking public consultation on the EU's blocking statute, which aims to address issues created by extraterritorial application of third country laws. But of course, these are not the only aspects of the bilateral relationship, right? I'm talking here about aspects that address the competition and in some cases the systemic rivalry aspect of the relationship. The EU has also tried to address the cooperation aspect both bilaterally through, for instance, the agreement on geographical indications, partnerships and policy dialogues with China, and yes, the comprehensive agreement on investment, which is now on the deep freeze, and multilaterally in areas like the reform of the WTO, climate change, COVID-19 relief efforts, and security. Now, looking at, again, focusing on the cooperation area or engagement aspect of the bilateral relationship in the trade and economic kind of aspect. The comprehensive agreement on investment was meant to be kind of the crown jewel of bilateral engagement in terms of trade and investment between the EU and China. Of course, the sanctions made this very difficult to move forward. We need to see what European leaders will say in yesterday's and today's European Council summit, which had as one of the topics to address how to move forward with trade or investment agreements that are in a stalemate. That obviously includes the comprehensive agreement on investment, but also others like the Mercosur agreement. But what we can see is that, as you can see from this MERIC survey, expectations on the ratification of the agreement are going down. I mean, you see that more and more people believe that the agreement is not going to be ratified. And that also leaves an interesting question as well from the trade perspective, and that is how to move forward with this trade aspect of the bilateral relationship when, again, the crowning jewel is, again, in a deep freeze. And this is something that both sides will need to address sooner rather than later. It will be important to have that rethinking of this bilateral trade and investment relationship, because again, this is going to have effects not only on European companies in China, but also on Chinese companies in Europe. It is important to continue at least the conversation bilaterally and find deliverables that both sides can agree on. Moving forward, in terms of the future, and I'm going to stop very quickly, Laura. I can say that what has been happening from the EU side in the past few months is that the general EU-China strategy has been revisited from various stakeholders. As I mentioned, the European Parliament published its own strategy in September this year, but also the EAS, the External Action Service, is also looking at kind of taking stock of what has happened so far and looking into ways to move forward with the relationship. And on the 5th of October, there was a discussion among member state leaders. Of course, there were a lot of items on the agenda, but China was one of them and was briefly discussed. So this is definitely one aspect to look to monitor for the near future. Another aspect that will be important to monitor as well will be member state, like changes in member states. We had the German elections in September, and it increasingly looks like a new coalition that could potentially have a more assertive stance on China could be formed. Next year, we will have as well the French elections. So again, the situation in member states will also be an important factor to consider. And the final factor I would like to mention is, of course, relations with the US. We have seen recently how there has been an attempt to find common ground and engagement between the US and China through the creation of a US EU dialogue on China, and then the Trade and Tech Council, which primarily addresses bilateral issues, but also areas that are indirectly related to China. So I will stop here in the interest of time. I think I'm a bit beyond the time, but happy to answer any questions now or maybe in writing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther, for this last presentation. I think that this topic and the content was the cherry on the cake of 2 full days conferences. We haven't received any questions, so I assume that this is because you were completely open and transparent in your speech. But as you know, Esther is part of our team members. You can reach out to her if you have any question related to this matter or anything that is focused on advocacy, as is in charge of that part of the team. I think time's up, and before leaving the floor to Renzo for the closing remarks, I would like to take the chance to remind you that once you close this session, you will receive an invitation to fill up a survey. We would like to know your insights about this event, because we expect to organize the same activity next year, hopefully offline, and we would like to know your opinion to improve it and make it even more interesting and useful. Before I leave the floor to Renzo, I would like to thank all the participants, but especially all the speakers that have been working very hard to make this event successful. And we remain available for any assistance that we, the EU SME Centre and the China IP SME Help Desk, our sister project, could offer to you. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Well, Laura, it's my duty then to make some closing remarks. And of course, it has been pretty intense 2 days, 2 half days caused by our COVID restrictions and also the time difference, which this implied. But I really want to thank each and every one of our participants that stayed online with us and our speakers, both speakers from the team and our distinguished guests. I think that the topics that we ran through were extremely punctual and also up to date, because we all see that things are moving as we speak, and new events are happening. Esther was just mentioning about a meeting at the European Union. So all these are things that will bring us into something that is going to continue to develop. We have noticed how this decoupling thing is actually perhaps not becoming a true divorce. It's something that maybe will prompt at a later stage a recoupling, maybe under different rules, under different conditions. But one fundamental element that actually Esther pointed out just now was this trade volume. The trade volume between the European Union and China is enormous. And this thing is not going to be wiped out from today to tomorrow. So the 1 billion euros that we talk about on a daily basis is something that will stay with us, and we have to learn how to manage it and how to exploit as much as possible the opportunities that also COVID is bringing to us. I found extremely interesting, especially the intervention that we had from Petra and Ilaria about how they managed to enter into virtual organizing trade missions virtually. They organize B2B events, let's say on a virtual basis. So these are new things that we are able and capable of utilizing to make our communication a better communication. Alessio has been also very clear that there is no one single step. It's no easy way out. There's no easy solution. We have to do a good homework. We have to prepare ourselves, and that's what we're here for. So at the EU SME Centre, this is our task, this is our duty, this is our commitment, and we're here to help. As you know, we are working out of a grant coming from the European Commission, and so all the services that we provide to you are free of charge. And together with the China IP Help Desk, SME Help Desk, together with the Europe Enterprise Network, I think we are here to give you as much as possible our support. From my side as a director of the EU SME Centre, I must say I'm very proud of the team that I am directing, because we should probably say they direct me more than I direct them, because their knowledge, although they're young but very, very capable, and the knowledge and understanding of the business they're focusing on is very, very wide. So use us, take advantage, contact us, you can come and look at our services on our website, go on the social media, and let's all try to make this next year more positive, possibly a bit COVID-free or partially free, and let's hope that the European and the Chinese institutions as well as companies are going to have and bring a very bright future. So with this, I really would like to give a great thanks to EUROCHAMBRES for organizing this event, and of course, in particular to our orchestra conductor, Laura Velasco. You have been absolutely fantastic, and we should all be thankful to your masterful capacity to bring all of us online and to stay within the time. So the objective was to give you all and leave you all to have a good lunch if you are in Europe, and to us here in China to have a nice dinner. And clearly, let's not forget that today is Friday. So TGIF, as the Americans would say. Thank you to all, and enjoy the